What a disaster! Teams are made of plastic. These were once champions. Disaster! Alexander! Please bring back with your disaster! What's up, everybody? Mig here with Computer Crew Gaming, and I just wanted to finally dip my toe into some career modes, and what better time to do it than right after the end of a season. And guess what? Arsenal was probably the worst of the big teams in Europe. They placed 8th, no Europe, not even this Conference League thing that no one really knows about, but it just happened. So that being the case, what better team than to take over and try to get them back to glory? Not just regular glory. We're talking about like winning Champions League. So we got 2 years to win Champions League. The idea is that would be the 20th anniversary of the Invincibles from 2003, and that kind of makes sense, right? Like, why not aim for that as a benchmark? But first, we had to do some research. So let's go into that. And I don't know if you just noticed that we were actually forwarding the calendar. There are no mods in this playthrough. What we were trying to do is actually just get Arsenal in a position where they would finish 7th or 8th, which, because of FIFA 21 doesn't have Conference League, nor did they update the game with Conference League. Thanks, EA. The idea was just to get ourselves in a non-fireable position, but still be out of Europe. Then, build a team. A very tight, compact team. We're talking about a 26 to 30 player roster that can only compete, obviously, in the 3 competitions: FA Cup, Carabao Cup, and the league. Then the following season, let's see what happens. The other things were, we're not going to compete against Champions League teams for signatures. So Emiliano Buendia, I just saw a story that they lost out to Aston Villa for Buendia. But I did do my best as far as researching players, usually through transfer market, as far as rumor mill, to see what players were going, what players were coming, and also coming to the conclusion that if you're an Arsenal fan, you're probably 95% done with this team. Like, there's gotta be like 4 players tops you want to keep. And it's not outrageous to think that way, by the way. Yeah, you probably want to keep Leno. You might want to keep Tierney. You might want to keep Partey and maybe, and I've already heard hate for Partey, but whatever. You might want to keep Odegaard, but I don't think he's going to stay now that he has a new coach in Real Madrid, and he might have a chance to start in Spain alongside Bale and James. Well, that's a 3-man attacking midfield that should actually be pretty decent if they stay healthy, but I digress. That's a different career mode for a different day. You want to keep Saka, you want to keep Smith Rowe, although I did see some stupidity about trading Smith Rowe straight up for Grealish. Guys, Grealish is out of Arsenal territory at this point. I know that sounds harsh, but we gotta play the cards. We have to assume that 7th place and 8th place means that we're not going anywhere. You know? Like, there isn't money to bring in Mbappe, obviously, but there isn't really money to just arbitrarily bring in Grealish. So there's going to be a lot of players moving out. We do know, for example, David Luiz is out. We know that I think even Leno wants out because he's not going to get Champions League. And we have to take this into account too. Outside of like a Tierney that's only had 1 season, one real season outside of, Scotland. He even might have the itch, but we're gonna assume he doesn't. Partey, probably regretting his choice, but he is kind of like one of the biggest players with the biggest contract and the longest contract probably out of all the players on this team, so it doesn't make sense to say that he would go. But we received an offer from a Champions League team. If Barca comes and throws 70 or 80 million sterling at us, I can't say no to that. And that's where I know I'm going to upset people with this playthrough. But at the same time, you got to understand, once again, we don't know how bad economically some of these teams are. But a team like Arsenal that already had a pretty high wage bill, that had a pretty stacked set of players, and they all underperformed. First of all, underperforming doesn't need to be rewarded with continued stay at a club like Arsenal. If we want to treat Arsenal like what we think they are, which is a Big Six club, then they have to move on even from Lacazette. We have to move on from Aubameyang, guys. Like, you guys need to replace both of those forwards. Ideally with two 21, 22-year-old forwards. And that's honestly what the research was about in this episode. So you're going to see me go through quite a bit here as far as scouting. Because right now we're in January. Right now I'm just trying to keep the team afloat. I just kind of need to see or eyeball where the team's at. Because a lot of times I've noticed if you don't keep an eye on your team in career modes, you'll get fired somehow in January, February, late March, and then you have to restart. And with solid state drive and things, it's not the hardest thing in the world to get a career mode to January, February. But for this specific thing, it was actually kind of hard because Arsenal either overperforms with this roster or gets injuries and underperforms. And we were just trying to go for that sweet spot once again. The goal was not to buy any players, but to scout. Because you can scout somebody and they're in your books for a year. Which is good for me specifically, because if I can get those scoutings done by the end of January and this season, that means I have that whole summer window to maybe just tinker and add one or two players here or there. So the one thing I wanted to double down and reiterate is my commitment to making this more of a realistic playthrough. Having players that are either somewhat connected via rumors or links is one thing. The other thing is actually looking as if they're actually good players and good fits for Arsenal. To me, Buendia was not a good fit for Arsenal, and it's good that he's not coming to Arsenal. It looks like he has officially agreed to terms with Aston Villa. Good for them. But at the same time, you want to develop Saka. You still have Pepe on this team. Pepe is probably going to be a casualty as far as making money for the club that we can reinvest. But for now, we have two right midfielders / right wingers and no space for a third right midfielder. Especially one that's like kind of that betweener. Saka tends to be rated 80-81 coming into the second season in FIFA. So there's literally nowhere to go with him. Buendia that is being like an 80, 79 or 80 rated player himself. And knowing that Pepe is kind of overrated in FIFA versus his real life counterpart. Although he did have a great stretch. I think he scored 5 goals in the last 5 games. Arsenal in general, by the way, guys, third in goals scored, third in points, only behind City and United. There are things to be excited about as a fan if not too many moves happen. Because the truth is, the team did perform very well second half of the season. 41 points in the second half of the season. It was a shame they had 20 to start the season with 20 out of 19 games or 20 out of 21 games. Like, fucking awful. Let's be honest. Bloody awful. Yeah. But this whole thing was, let me not only restrict myself to just FIFA's tracking, let me actually track real life stats. Let me track, players in real life using, Moneyball tactics. And this is something that Brentford's going to bring over into the Premier League now that they won the championship finally. But it's a team that's been developing players for a really long time. It's also something that Lille just did in France. The guy who actually created that whole formula for them also did it before in Monaco. And now Arsenal's actually looking at him. So it makes even more sense for me to like try to adopt this style and make this happen. So that's a little bit more about the style that I was going through as far as trying to make this happen. That's how someone like Zambo re-signs up on her transfer shortlist. Like I said, I want the shortlist to be a balanced team, 30 to 35 targets, like not necessarily flip the whole team, but just so we're not scrambling last second. You know, I've done tests runs before, and that's how I found other players. So I've done some research to try to keep this pretty close. But yeah, hopefully you guys appreciate that part. I mean, that I will also take any suggestions in the comments as far as players you would like to see on the team, and we can just take a quick look at them and see what's realistic or not, and maybe we can even have an episode just looking at those players, like what really makes sense for Arsenal at this point. I think this list kind of represents a little bit of everything, especially when you talk about Isak and David at striker. If we can bring in those two guys and replace Lacazette and Aubameyang, it would be a phenomenal window. Just those two moves to have the renovation of your strike team, and to also have a future, to be able to pair those guys with the youth of Smith Rowe and Saka. There's a lot of stuff to like there. There's also players that aren't so great, but we need role players on the team. So, if we do need a left back, for example, Haidara, I think is like a 72 or 73. Perfect choice, honestly, to be a backup back, especially for cup competitions. In case Tierney dies, because he's made of glass, it feels like. That also might be a reason we move him if we get a good offer. I like him a lot, but if you're made of glass, it doesn't really work for a career mode, does it? But no, let's try to hold on to a Tierney. But like I said, you might notice like there was a Wilmer Barrios in that list, but he actually plays for St. Petersburg. There was no transfer because there was no transfer window to start this career mode. I've left it as is because, I mean, teams in real life had two transfer windows, so what's the point? But there is no St. Petersburg in the game. He went as a free agent to Bayern, so targeting him to me is not a big deal because he should have never been there in the first place. And we've already been over stuff about like Lille players, for example. I think you saw Selic there, and you also saw David. But it's a team that does this habitually. They grow their youth players, and they're there for a team like Arsenal. And there's a working relationship with Arsenal and Lille. Gabriel, which by the way, Gabriel is probably our best defender. Definitely not getting rid of him. He will be under no circumstances sold. That is a guarantee I will make here, right now. Him, Smith Rowe, Saka, no, just no. Everyone else, maybe, depending on the offer. There's also our goalkeeping situation needs to be addressed and things like that. But before I talk too much in circles, just also want to mention, when I say a tight, compact team, 26 to 30 players. Look at the roster right now; it's at 41, and there's a lot of loans out there right now. But we don't want to have that even with loans. With loans, we gotta be around 34, 33. We gotta sell some of these youth players as good as they are, and it just it's not realistic for a 2-year window that we're trying to execute a Champions League run. To worry about a Cottrell, for example. Cottrell may be really good in a road to glory, but you wouldn't be with Arsenal at that point. You would buy him from Arsenal, and that's kind of the point. We're trying to get Arsenal to get back to where they belong as fast as possible. I hope you join me for that ride. Just gonna do a little bit more maintenance, and then we're gonna see if we survive this season and actually get into the meat and potatoes of this damn thing. Well, here we are. Let's see what we're gonna do. Oh, loss. win, a loss. Oh my god, that puts us in. Oh, it puts us in 7th. It's where we wanted to be. Cool. So we know players are gonna be upset. I mean, 52 rating for the manager feels a little skittish. I don't know if they're gonna keep us. Actually, I didn't really look at where we were points wise for that January window. Actually, well. We were at 6th in January, and we fell to 7th. Yeah, it's fine. Actually, perfectly fine with that. Just as long as we don't get fired, and we can just actually move on with the actual concept. Oh, look at Lacazette put in a transfer request, ladies and gentlemen. Lacazette is done, son. He's like, you know what? I don't get to play. You only want to play one forward. I technically don't want to play one forward, but you know, we're gonna experiment with some tactics as well. I wanna be more aggressive than I've ever been in a FIFA before. I'm thinking 3-4-3. I want to play open and exciting soccer, and we have Martinelli, Saka, Smith Rowe, so like a ferocious left, right wing, and attacking midfield combination of players. And we should leverage their speed and their enthusiasm and their youth, shouldn't we? Just my idea. I know if I play 3 at the back, that might put me at odds with someone like Tierney, but Tierney can play center back. I could also put in some trainings for him to move to left midfield, to give him that flexibility that I need, and then I can look ahead of time for a player that is a right mid. Or that might be a way to leverage Saka and Pepe on the same field of, move on. We know Bellerin wants out. Chambers would not fit this system. Even as a backup center back, I feel like Chambers needs to go run his course somewhere else. Holding, I feel like the fan base is kind of tired of personally. So we gotta bring out another 80+ center back. I actually think one of the things you usually get when you have a lower ranked team is they tell you, hey, you're gonna sign 3 world-class players, so you have to sign by default an 82 and above player. They're gonna force us in the game to properly address that. We're not gonna have a choice. It's also to get the rating back up, because if we're at 52 and they keep us, we need to get that rating higher up, because I'm planning to play this on ultimate difficulty. There will be sliders, because I want to have fun playing the game. FIFA at higher difficulties has a real big problem with first touch being impeccable, and passing and shooting being impeccable. So some of those things are going to get turned down a little bit, okay? And if you don't like that, I'm sorry, but you haven't played on even World Class then, probably, because World Class even has a problem with just teams that overpossess even when they're 18th place, 3rd division Spaniard team. Like it's a problem. So to play a more natural game in a game that'll still be competitive to me, we're gonna put at the difficulty with a little bit of sliders. Hope that's okay with you. And for my test runs, I can tell you that's a back and forth affair, so at least it should be entertaining to watch. A little bit of drama involved in most games. But yeah, rating offers for Lacazette. Let's just move to see if we're gonna actually get to keep this team. Oh man, I am nervous because it's taking a little bit here. This is the longest load I've ever seen. Oh my god. Okay, end of season. My name's still there under Arsenal. Oh yeah. Alrighty. Oh yeah. You know it, baby. Alright. Well, Gunners, it looks like we're gonna have a real season. A real season of work ahead of us, rather. Behind us. Well, actually, that honestly was a lot of work. That was it took a couple attempts to actually get a good 7th place finish without immediate firing, and it was the first time while recording, at least it was the first try while recording, so that worked. We're gonna just go ahead and pick any random tournament here. Uh, Not really worried about competition at the moment. Just want to start getting the trainings out of the way. Want to get the trainings done mostly because they're simple enough, but it keeps your players informed. Even the ones that don't get to play too much. So I think that's kind of important, and it's like a one and done thing. You get an A, you always get an A going forward. So I'm gonna do a lot of that boring stuff offline. As you can see, they want us to do the sign to 3 guys, the sign to 3 world-class players. They want us to do to reach the semi-final within 2 seasons of UEFA. So we're actually putting more strict ideas on ourselves than the game is. But that's fine. I think this is gonna be pretty good, guys. Let me know in the comments below who you would like me to sign. If we get enough traction, of course, I'll go on my way to make those signatures happen. Let me know if you take a look at that list. You can always scroll back and see me scroll through that list a couple of times on the transfer list. Tell me who you like in real life, who you think would be a bust, and let me know what restrictions you use for yourself if you do such a thing in career mode. I've been playing this game so long, since FIFA Road to the World Cup '98. Yeah, make it more interesting. So this is my way of doing it, and it's the first time I'm ever actually recording something for this too, outside of like me doing like a run at like Road to Glory way too long ago. Let me know, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time for the official 2021-22 season for your Arsenal FC.